This is my infographics about communication process. But before we start our topic, let us know what is communication. Communication is the sending and receiving of information and involves the sender who initiates communication. It encodes meaning, transfer thoughts into a message that is sent to the receiver or the person who is meant to receive the communication, who must then encodes meaning, interpret the message. Communication can be done through talking, writing, or even using digital platforms like social media or texting. This process helps people to understand each other and build relationships. And now let's talk about the two communication barriers. There are also barriers to communication, such as noise, language, cultural differences, and emotional barriers. Noise is anything that interferes with the message being sent or understood. In traditional communication, uses could be literal, like background sounds. In digital communication, could be a poor connection. And for language or cultural differences, cause misunderstanding if the sender or receiver don't share the same background. And for emotional barriers, is the feelings like anger or sadness can affect how the message is sent or received. Let's talk about the difference between traditional and cultural communication. There are a difference between traditional and digital communication. Traditional communication involves face-to-face conversation and letters. It's usually more personal and allows for immediate feedback through body language and tone. While digital communication includes texting, social media, and emails, it's faster and can reach more people once but sometimes lead to misunderstanding since you can see or hear the person directly. Now, let's talk about the four types of communication. These are the four types of communication. We have verbal, nonverbal, visual, and written communication. Verbal communication is the words and sounds that come out of our mouths when we're speaking, including tone of voice. Nonverbal communication communicate using things like body language, gestures, and facial movements. For example, talking face-to-face in conversation, talking over phone, and public speaking. Non-verbal communication transfer of information from one person to another without the use of words or spoken language. Non-verbal can occur in variety of ways including through facial expression, gestures, and body posture or position. Communication process is a step we take in order to successfully communicate. Communication process is to transmit information from one person to another. And now, let's talk about the components of the communication process. There are 5 components of communication process, and they are the sender, receiver, message, transmission, and feedback. The first component is the sender. The sender is the person who first developed an idea, information, and a conversation to transmit to a receiver. For example, when you send a text to a friend. The second is the receiver. The receiver is the person who receives a message or information. And the receiver also interprets or understood the message from the sender. For example, when your friends read the message and understood what you're trying to say. The message is simply the idea or information that conveyed by the sender. For example, our texts and emails. Transmission is a medium used to transmit a message, thoughts, and ideas. Transmission is the way the message is being sent. Transmission includes face-to-face conversation or writing a letter. Transmission also includes texts, emails, or video calls. Text is the feedback. The feedback in communication is the response given by the individual receiving information. This can be verbal or non-verbal, cause such as head nodding and body language. It can also be more forward, involving specific thoughts or pushback on what one party has said. Some of us might not take the feedback as part of communication process in traditional and digital communication seriously, but feedback is crucial in both traditional and digital communication because it shows that the message was received and understood. It helps us to clear up any confusion and ensures that the conversation continues effectively. Quick summary about the components of communication process. First is the sender. The sender is the person who first starts a conversation. Second is the receiver. The receiver is the person who receives and understands the message. Next is the message. The message is simply the idea or thoughts by the sender. And the transmission is the way on how the message being sent. Last is the feedback. The feedback is the response by the sender and the receiver. And now, let's talk about on how this communication process works. The sender initiates the process of communication with a specific or particular purpose. The sender includes by converting the message into action or words or other forms wherein the sender and the receiver understand. The message is simply the information, thoughts, or ideas by this sender into words or in action. After that, the message is being transported through a vehicle called transmission. Transmission is used as a medium to transmit ideas or thoughts. Transmission includes face-to-face conversation, video conference, telephone conversation, and written communication, mass media, and so on. The next in line is the receiver. The receiver decodes the message. Decoding means understanding and interpreting the encoded message given or sent by the sender. When the receiver decodes the message, he or she now makes a response, also known as feedback. Feedbacks are reaction responses or any information provided by the receiver. It can be sent through different channels. The feedbacks are reaction responses of any information provided by the receiver. It can be sent through different transmissions. When the sender receives the feedback from the receiver, the sender will also give his or her feedback to the receiver until it will go simultaneously. I have these two questions about communication. First is, why does communication is important? It is important because in our daily life, communication helps us build relationships by allowing us to share our experience and needs that help us to connect to others. The second question is why this communication process is important. about communication is key to understanding each other and building connection, whether we're talking in person or digital tools. By being aware of the communication process and the potential barriers, we can improve how we share and receive information. This is all about my infographic about communication process. Thank you.